Hey people, how you doing? I'm the Broken Puppet and welcome back to my drawing tutorials. If it's your first time to my channel, make sure you click subscribe, and if you can, just drop me a like and a comment during the video, it really helps. I'm going to draw a really nice classic old school owl, so it's going to be nice, it's going to be big, bold, really nice, impactful kind of image. It's really easy to follow along as well. I'm just going to be using basic stuff. I'm going to be using pencils, I've got some sharpies, I'm going to be using some windsor and brush markers. You can use whatever you want. If you've got any other ones like pro markers, Copics, anything you want, water paints, just use whatever you guys have at hand. You just copy what I do on here on there. It's really that simple. So I'm going to go straight into it now. So I'm going to start off with a nice oval shape. So I'm going to sketch in a rough oval shape just like so. Once you've got that one done, I'm going to get a big oval shape, and it's going to be a bit of an angle, this one. So imagine the head's kind of sort of this way, the oval's kind of coming down a bit of an angle. It's just because it's going to be a kind of bit of sort of side angle of him, so he's facing forward, but he's going to be a bit towards the side. Kind of side here, just kind of cut through this circle and this circle. I'm going to cut down, and it's kind of like sort of teardrop shapes. It's going to come down like so, and cut in, so about halfway through this circle. I'm going to get a little circle bit just here on the edge, just kind of hitting where like the shoulder would be. I'm going to have one claw, it's going to sit here. Another claw is going to sit here. You're going to have this branch, it's going to come between these legs. So it's going to come here. So you've got this kind of box shape, sort of rectangle coming through, just roughly where the branch is going to go. And then it's going to have these tails, which are going to kind of come underneath in this kind of area just here. So this is the basic sort of structure of the kind of layout, and I think it's really important to kind of get the layout before you do anything else. Breaking down the shapes really helps you kind of get everything exactly where it should be. If you've got high detail from the get-go, it's just going to run it and it's not going to look right. So I'm going to draw a line just through the centre of this initial circle we've done. So this big oval, just a line through the centre of it, just like so. I'm going to get one circle on one side, and one circle on the other side. Once done that, we're going to get another little circle just inside that, another circle just inside that, about the same distance apart, and just between it, just get this little sort of V shape just here to connect to those circles we've done. We've done about even spaced apart, be a nice and even sort of shape, and that's going to be where the beak is. From here, just come a tiny bit upwards, and you're going to bring this line coming out diagonally, like so. You want to come quite far outside the box, and you want to cut through, basically kind of touching those smaller circles in the inside, just touching the tips of them, coming out. It's going to be the eyebrows, and they're really important. The eyebrows are going to sort of tell the whole personality and the whole kind of mood of this owl. If they're not right, it's just not going to look right. So around this circle we've done here, I'm going to bring another one. It's going to come up, and it's kind of sort of loop around to the corner of that mouth. And again, just here, it's going to loop around, just there. Once you've got that done, you're going to bring another sort of shape, just kind of come off the edge, just kind of curve out just a touch here. And you've got to cut down to about here, and this is going to go there. I'm not going to worry about doing this because it's going to be covered up by this wing. But it's basically like his puffy neck, like sort of like, the owl needs that kind of big puffy neck, and I just want to look right. Once you've got done, I'm going to break this belly up into a few shapes. I'm going to bring in this circle shape just here. I'm going to bring another one just here. Just to kind of give a little bit of dimension to it. 2 bits here, just come down towards this leg, just kind of give a hint of the leg without it being like an obvious kind of leg, because obviously they're not going to be with the legs out like that. Where you've got the toes, it's going to bring in 3 big oval shapes, 1, 2, 3 there. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 there. I'm going to space these ones out a little bit more than this one because of the angle. And once you've got it done, I'm going to go and start working in more detail now. So I'm going to come to this towards where the wing is. So I'm just going to reinforce that outline shape just up here. You want that nice curve coming across there. And then what we're going to do, just create a little semicircle shape. So we're going to curve around. So I'm going to start off with a fairly big one and make them slightly smaller as we come around. Just getting closer, closer to that line until eventually we just fade that line to nothing. So you see we've got 1 curve, 2 curve, 3 curve, 4. Once you've got that done, we're going to create these little semicircle shapes. And then each semicircle underneath is going to connect to the middle. Kind of like sort of dragon scales. Just a typical kind of pattern you see in tattooing. It's just a really nice way of kind of building up the feathers. I'm going to start off with 1 in the center. I'm going to tail off this one, then I'm going to have 3 coming across here. So you've got like 3 layers of them just there. Once you've got it done, just curving off back here, I'm going to create this curve. And then from here, I'm just going to keep creating these curves, just coming across. Kind of creating this sort of curve shape to where they kind of curve around. I don't want it to be like a dead perfect straight line, the way they kind of go. So coming across just like that. And then the second layer is going to come down. I'm going to get this little kind of bump one just here. Little bump, just another one there. And it's going to come across until eventually we'll kind of get here and it kind of come a bit pointy towards the edge. Until eventually this one kind of pokes out a little bit down the bottom. Just like that. the shoulder bit just the back here, you're going to get a little hint of it, so we're going to create those little sort of semicircle curves just to kind of mimic this sort of shape we've done here. And that's that wing sort of pretty much done there. So you're going to come to the eyes and get more detail now. So I'm going to put a little circle inside those eyes. You don't want to go too small, you want to be fair size, but just be a bit kind of sort of gentle in a minute, because a lot of this can be overlapped, so a lot of it's not going to be seen. And then on the top right hand side of it, I'm going to create this sort of semicircle curve, just to kind of create a highlight. This bit's going to be white. You've got a dark edge going around the initial circle we drew, just like so. And I'm going to have another little circle line, just kind of round it very close, just sketch it in roughly. You know, we're going to come in with like a fine pen when we do the detail for that bit. Just like that. Now the secondary line, the first big circle we've done just here, I'm going to create these semicircle loops, and I'm going to keep flicking around, yeah, like so. So starting from the top, just flicking around until it connects up, and this outside line is just going to be a straight smooth line connecting outwards. Now the eyebrows, the important part. Remember we said the important part, the eyebrows? So I'm going to bring this line coming up, I'm going to curve it up a touch, flicking out. And when we come back, I'm going to bring this in, I'm going to create this one dip, then two dip. So on this side, we're going to curve upwards, outwards, come back, one dip, two dip, fade to the middle. Now the top part of this head, you know, you want to be fairly kind of flat. You don't want to be too sort of tall. Now if it's too tall, it kind of sort of changes the shape of what the head should be. And we're going to do the same effect we've done here for these kind of scale bits, but kind of in reverse. So it's going to go upside down. So I'm going to start off one in the center bit just here. Then we're going to go two off of that. And just each time, just connect up to the center of the one underneath it. And just keep doing this until you basically can't go no higher. So you kind of touch that line just there. Just like that. And in the background, just over here, I'm going to do a circle. And a small circle inside it. I'm just going to divide this up into about 5 sort of sections. I'm going to do like a little flower just here. I'm going to do one just over here, I think. So it's going to be one just in the background just here. So again, just divide up roughly to sort of 5 sort of sections. You know, don't worry about too much where it's going to go behind them, because you're not going to see this area, but just try and imagine it was going behind there and divide it up nice and equally. And the outside edge bit of this, we're going to curve around, create a little bump up and connect up. It's going to be the same kind of concept for each one of these. It's going to have a little bump in the middle, connect up to the one just to the side of it. And then on the outside of that, I'm going to create these kind of curves. So I'm going to get a curve out and curve back in. I like to do these generally where you get the lines. You know, it just makes it look a bit better in my opinion. I've got one up there, one on the side of that, and just here I'm going to have one just there, one just there. So now we've got the base kind of sort of stuff everywhere we kind of want it. I'm going to come in with a pen and we start doing a detail. It's just going to make it much more clearly for you guys to see now as we do this section. So this is kind of like, you know, like I said, the basic sort of structure, and the structure is the important part. If you don't have the structure, it's going to be really hard to do the detail. You know, it's going to look kind of off, but it's going to be in the wrong place. So it's worth taking the time to do this first. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to get all this detail. So I'm going to start off with this wing, because this wing bit is sitting in front. So whatever's sitting in front, we're going to do first. So I'm going to bring this up, like so. Go around there. Curve, 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 curve. Get the initial line done for these feather scales, just get these in there. Initial line down there. Start getting the first layer of these feathers for the wing. Just like so, until they come around. And then get your second layer underneath. That's it, as they come out, as we get towards the end, they're going to start getting a little bit kind of pointy until we end up with that. That'll do for me. I'm going to do all the bold outline first. I'm going to come back and do some little fine details. Now the fine line, and the fine line is going to really kind of bring out a lot of the characteristics and stuff like that. So I'm going to come to the face now, because the face is going to sit more in front. So I'm going to start off with this eyebrow. This second eyebrow in here. Just like so. Once I've got that done, I'm going to get this line across the head. Just like so. I'm going to say just like so quite a few times. It's just what I do. Get those initial circles for the outline of the eyes. Just like so. And a little bit of black on the inside. I'm not going to do the little highlight bit yet, because I'm going to do that with a thinner pen. So I'm going to wait till I get my, wow, tongue tie. I'm going to wait until I come back with a fine liner and do those bits afterwards. So I said, bold outline first, come back, refine detail. I mean, you can do it that way. A lot of old school is generally done with like the one sort of pen size, or paint size, depending on what you're sort of drawing it with. But I like to use, sometimes that sort of 2 different kind of line weights. By that I mean like line thicknesses. For old school, I don't generally like to do anything more than that. I find if you sort of use more than 2 line weights, it starts making it too kind of neo-traditional, and you kind of lose a bit of this kind of style you're after. I'm not saying that it can't be achieved, but I'm just saying it just makes it easier to stick to 2 line weights. Getting those little semicircle curves we've done, I'm just going to round those eyes, like so. And then that secondary line just coming around the edge, just to kind of finish off the shape of the owl's face. Going to come down there, and where we've got this part here, I'm going to create this line. I want to curve up into this shape. I'm going to do this 1, 2, curve around. And I'm going to just kind of curve over there. I'm going to have a little curve just here, just on the tip bit, just to kind of sort of show where it might kind of like come through on the other side. It's not necessary, but I just want to put that there. And then where we've got this line cutting through here, I'm going to do this line, but I'm going to do it with flicks. So I'm going to flick this kind of curve, and I'm going to follow that shape so it's a bit kind of angular. Until we get to about there, and I'm just going to carry that through. I'm going to do this the same. The bottom part of the leg. Just there. And that bottom part just there. Let this curve up. Get that little loop just in that part of the wing on the other side. So you see, it's all come together quite nicely now. It's kind of building up. And once it gets to this sort of stage, you can kind of see where we're kind of going with it and how it kind of looks. Get a circle in here. Little lines in there, divide into 5. And then we go 1, 2, 3. So you've got 3 little bumps on it. So you've got 1 bump, 2 bump, connect. 1 bump, 2 bump, connect. 1 bump, 2 bump. And we'll connect behind it. You just kind of do it as if it was going behind it. Get those little leaf bits in the background. Like I said, it's really good to come from where the lines are. The only times you don't do that, unless you do like a little secondary one next to it. You can do one a bit more of an angle like that. But the main ones, you kind of want to follow where the lines are. If it doesn't kind of go with the shape of it, it just kind of goes against the shape. And just looks a bit weird in my opinion. You don't want that. So I'm going to come down to these toes now. So I'm going to create a curve for this first one. It's going to curve around. I'm going to create this little kind of point to create a little bit of a claw at the bottom. I'm going to bump it around like this. Now this foot's a bit of an angle, so the toe's going to be this way, and these ones going to be much more kind of straight. I'm going to create my next one. Just going to bump it, kind of behind. And the third one, just kind of bumping behind there. You get a little hint at the bottom, this one at the bottom, because it kind of got 4 toes. So you kind of get this little hint at the bottom one just there. Once it's got done, it's going to put a little line just for the branch bit underneath. Ain't too crazy. Just a really kind of rough kind of branch shape. Just bring that down to this side. And then we get to the next bit of toe. So I said these ones are going to be a bit more of an angle. So this first one's going to kind of go like that. So it's going to be a bit similar to that one. And this one's going to go a bit more the other way. Just got the way he's gripping it. And then the third one's going to be much more kind of like that. So bottom little claw just underneath there, and bring your tree branch just coming out the other side, just like so. Now where you've got this little hint of leg, I'm going to bring this line up into this. I'm going to create these 2 little semicircle shapes just here, and we'll do a bit similar on this side, so line coming up, and just a hint, these semicircle bits off the side. I'm going to do little flick lines just here, just to show where that leg kind of finishes, a little bit just on that side. I come down to this bottom tail feather, and we sort of sketched it in roughly. Now we've got this in here, we can kind of sort of do it. So I'm basically going to bring the outside line first. So I want this here, I want this here. So you've got this kind of semicircle shape here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go 1 little bump, 2 little bump following it, be like 3, and then 4. And right down each line, and then I'm going to bring it up, like so, as if we're just kind of dividing it up. Then in between each one of those, if you have space for it, I'm going to bring a little line just down the center, where we can see it, and create this little secondary loop, just on the bottom part of those, like that. Once I've got that down, it's going to go over here, just get a second flower in here. Again, just 1 loop, 2 loop, 3. 1 loop would be 2 loop, 3. 1, 2, just there. Bring in these little leaves on the outside, just like that. So once you've got that done, that's the basic bold outline. So once you've got that done, depending on what pen you're using, what paper you're using, you might give it a chance just to dry before you rub out the pencil work. Sharpies dry pretty quick on here. This is Bristol board, so it's fairly safe for me to rub out now. You know, if you rub out too quickly and your stuff ain't dried, you're going to smudge it all over the place and it's going to ruin your work. You know, so yeah, it's worth taking the time and just understanding just how long it's going to take for your pen to dry. You know, if you're using stuff like pen and ink, you know, it can take quite a long time. You know, the best thing to do is just draw on a bit of paper, you know, then every sort of, like, say 30 seconds, just kind of sort of just like rub a little bit and just see if there's a smudge. And once you can eventually sort of smudge a bit and it doesn't affect it, you know, that's roughly how long it's going to take. You know, just take a little bit of time just to do a test and just see how it goes. It's going to come in now, I'm going to get me a pen. Much thinner pen, I'm going to use the Unipin fine liner. This one's a 0.8. You know, it's a bit chubbier than most of them. But it's going to be thinner than the Sharpie. That's the main thing. We just want one that's a bit thinner than the Sharpie. You can go for much smaller. I've got a 0.4 in that as well. But yeah, for this I'm using 0.8. So now I'm going to bring the lines in these little areas. So those 2 circles inside the eye, I'm going to bring those. This little secondary line just around this eye. So I'm going to mimic the shape. Keeping the same distance away from it if you can. All the way around, just like so. Where we've got these little semicircle shapes, I'm going to bring in a secondary semicircle inside each one of these. Just like this, just like this, and just like this. Let's bring that throughout those. You can do the same thing on this wing part here. That's where we've got these semicircles. Just coming down like this. Get them as perfect as you can, you know, don't worry about if they're not 100% perfect. You know, but just kind of focus to get them as good as you can. Where you've got these little wings here, I'm going to bring this initial line, say about halfway down, leaving a little space on the side. Now I'm only doing this for the first layer. It's going to get this really nice kind of little highlight effect on the side. You'll see when we start colouring it in. But yeah, it's going to be a really cool effect, that one. And now we've got it done, it's going to bring a little line up the centre of the beak, just like this. And what else am I going to want to do? So a few little lines in the toes, so I'm going to bring a little line just here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So 2 little curves one way at the bottom, 2 curves at the top. And just do this from whichever one is like the outside line. So you see here, when I get these last 2 toes, I kind of rotate it because that's the outside line section for those. I'm going to bring this little line just here at the bottom, just mimicking this sort of shape we done. Just there, I really like that. I think what I might do, I'm just going to sketch in a rough circle just here behind the head I'm looking at, and I kind of think like it needs it. You can use a compass if you want to get this 100% dead perfect. I'm just going to sketch this roughly in. Just keep going over it until you kind of feel like it's a nice, perfect kind of sort of circle. There we do. And once I've got that done, I'm going to come in with a pen. I'm just going to do the outline of this in dots. You can do the outline on a line, you can do it in little flicks. You can do it little dots, you can do it anything you want. But I just quite like the effect of a sun in the background done with dots and then coloured in. I find especially because where obviously it's kind of dots, that line feels lighter than the rest, so it makes the sun kind of feel like it has an outline, but at the same time feel lighter than the rest, so it makes sense because it's the sun obviously. Inside this wood I'm going to create some nice wiggly lines just coming down. Every now and again I'm going to kind of flip back and rotate. As long as you're just generally going in the same sort of direction, it's fine. You want to go with the branch as well, not going across. So kind of go with the wood shape. Just keep bringing them across until you kind of get through all of it. And you just get lines pretty simple. Easy to do with effects. But yeah, if in doubt with like wood, just nice wiggly lines does the trick. This works really nice for both old school and neo-traditional, I find. I tend to do it for both of them. I think that'll do for me. You know, because old school, you don't go too crazy with the lines. You know, so just a few just here and there does the trick. You know, you can create a few little lines if you think I need a few little edges if you want. But I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave it as that. So I'm going to come now, I'm going to start doing the shading. I'm going to start off with a black and grey, and then we're going to go through to colour. So for black and grey, I'm going to use my Windsor and brush markers. Like I said, just use whatever you're going to have handy. You know, it hasn't got to be Windsor and brush markers, it's just whatever you get your hands on. So for mine, I'm going to be using these cold tones and the black. So I've got these ones, the grey ones. I've got the Windsor Newton. They're basically CG4 down to CG1. Most pens, markers generally have a code or something. So I'm going to be using the black and just going through them. Basically, number 4 is the darkest, number 1 is the lightest. So you're going to hit it from the dark and just go to the light. So I'll start off first by just doing all the pure black areas. Because you want some areas that's going to be pure black with no shading. You know, it's going to really make it stand out. So for this, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I'm going to put these inside scale bits. Pure black. What I normally do is pure black, but I'm looking at it and I think it's just going to work really nicely. So I'm going to go for these areas. As I said, you just want to make sure at least one or a couple of parts of it are just pure black. You know, in my opinion, when it comes to old school, the most important colour is black. You know, you need to make sure there's pure black in there. It really does help. It's more important in old school than it is any other kind of sort of form of tattooing, I think. You know, you really need it to make it look right. After that, especially if they're in colour, you know, if they're in black and grey, it makes no difference. But for colour ones, the next most important, in my opinion, is reds, and then gold tones, then sort of like greens and sort of flesh tones. You know, it's just certain kind of colours just really kind of make it look that way. And that's basically because back in the day when you had the old school artists, now they had a limited amount of colours they could really use. You know, and because the kind of style was kind of set by them, you know, by having those colours, it really just kind of makes it look kind of vintage and really old school. You know, it just defines the style really. You know, you got more modern stuff where they kind of use a range of colours, and it does work in certain people's work. You know, but yeah, you can't go wrong with just using a bit of pure black. Really. So I said there's scale bits there, there's scale bits there, that little bit of the wing just there, and a little bit of the back, just pure black. The rest is going to have some sort of form of shading at some points. Just a little bit of black in the side, those little scales we've done for the legs. Just there and just there. Will do the trick, I think. So now we've got it done, we're going to do some sort of shading. So I'm going to start off with, let's say, the top part of the face and work our way down. So the technique I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bit of black just here. And once you've done the black, I'm going to grab all my pens, I'm going to hold them into one hand like I always do. Get your darkest grey. And you're just going to want to work over that black edge. Just a little circle formation, just a couple of times until it kind of blends it out. Once it's blended out, just go down. You can go for all 4 tones, you'll get the best results that way. But I tend to skip a tone every now and again, so I usually go for like the dark one. So like number 4, you then go down to number, like say 2, and then fade out with number 1. Very important to remember as well that when you first use this, it's going to wet the paper, so it's going to look darker than it's going to look once it dries up. So make sure you give it a chance to dry before you keep overworking it. If you look at it and you think, oh, this looks way too dark, just give it a chance to dry first before you put, say, another layer on there. Because when it dries, a lot of time it'll fade pretty much next to nothing, especially the lightest shade, like the number ones. You know, they fade like quite heavily. So these little inside scale bits, I'm just putting a little bit of dark just on the corners of them. Just so you get this nice little shine just in the center of them. Like so. I'm just going to work the way down, so sort of looking here, I'm going to come into, say, these little bits on the side, these little leaves. Almost forgot what they was called there. I was like, colouring these, oh, my brain's going, what the hell are these again? Leaves. So, getting these mixed up, so just go down to my number 4. I want a fairly quick transition for these, so I'm not going to drag the shade out too much. I'm literally just going to work off the edge and then come down and kind of fade out. Now for certain things, certain colours, sometimes you want a kind of long transition, but for stuff like this in the leaves, it's, you know, especially in old school, it's usually a very quick sort of transition between the shadows. Again, that's just another very key trait of old school, in my opinion. Gonna get some black here, just underneath this little kind of puffy bit under his neck. Get some black coming across just there. I'm just going to fade this down, so just get that grey, just come across. I tend to go in the side-to-side motion like this. I just tend to find you get a much better gradient than you do if you're kind of flicking it downwards. You know, if you're flicking downwards, you're going to kind of get an unevenness because it's going to be different sort of like heights and that. So I highly recommend when using stuff like this, same thing with kind of water paints. You know, use a side-to-side motion. It'll help dramatically. There we go, now we'll fade that bit out just there. Come back in now, we've got this tiny little gaps inside the eye. I'm going to black out these little bits just there and there. Just so it kind of gives like a nice little set to the face, just there. I'm going to come into this spot here. I'm going to put a little bit of black just inside one of these. You know, I can break the rule and I can kind of go down on this one because each one's a different section. You know, it's not like a long transition. You know, if you could go sideways, I'd recommend doing it, but where it's a really thin section, it's just easier on these particular bits to go up and down. But for 90% of your work, you know, you want to try and use a side-to-side motion. And once you've done it a couple of times, you'll understand what I mean. You'll see, it just makes a massive difference. You're going to get much, much cleaner shading if you do it that way. Yeah, just keep going through your grades. Just keep going until you get to the ones. And it's worth taking the time to get a nice sort of transition at this stage. That way when you put your colour in, it's just a much nicer, kind of smooth gradient. You know, if it's not smooth at this stage, it's not going to magically get smoother when you do the next part. So yeah, I definitely recommend taking the time on this bit to get it right. So here on these bits, I'm going to bring this down, and again, like I said, I'm going to bring this across so I can do a side-to-side motion. So I want this nice even gradient coming across this part of the wing. So it's putting that black to begin with, get your grey. Yeah, just going to go side to side just till it starts to fade. Now once it looks like it's about to start to fade, then you kind of stop, you know, because it will kind of carry on for a little bit, you know. So if you just kind of keep overworking the area, you're basically going to destroy it. So as soon as you see it starting to blend, just let it go and just let it do its magic. You know, don't keep going over the same area, especially if you're using something like printer paper. You know, printer paper is really not ideal for markers or just any kind of drawing, to be honest. Just get yourself some decent paper. You know, Bristol board, it's not expensive. You know, you get it on Amazon, pretty much anywhere. You know, or just some nice quality paper. You know, just make sure it's a little bit of thickness to it. You know, like I said, it's not overly expensive. It's not going to break the bank, and it's worth doing. Your work just looks so much nicer, and you'll enjoy it so much more. You know, if you do it that way. So I'm putting some black just here, just across this edge bit where we've done those lines. I'm going to fade off the edge. I don't want to go completely over the edge. I still want to see those little lines coming through. It's going to make it that nice kind of sort of like fairy kind of texture. If you go completely over it all, you kind of lose that, and you're not going to achieve the effect you want. It's just going to look like a messy edge, and that's the last thing you want. We don't want that kind of look for it. Just come up around there. Just go through your shades, and you want a fairly quick transition off of this. Like I said, don't want to sort of drag it out too far. Just a nice, smooth, quick gradient. Do the trick. Same type down the top here, just in these little scale bits. I'm just going to come on the corners, just like this. Each one of these scales. And just come in with a slightly lighter tone. Just look over those. Now we're going over them colour, so the colour will eventually blend it out, so that does the trick. Now you'll get to the stage when you sort of use markers now, you just learn to kind of trust the marker to do what it's doing. Obviously when you first start, you're going to be a bit kind of panicky and kind of worried about it, but once you get the hang of it, just kind of learn to sort of trust that the marker is going to do what it's supposed to do. Same thing with like water paints, it's, you kind of got to give it a chance just to do its magic. Just going to get a little bit of black, just kind of around the sort of feet areas. Don't go completely black around the outside, just kind of black, kind of flicking off the edge really. So I don't want to make this tree branch too dark, but just enough to kind of fade it. So just keep going around those edges, just get a nice kind of gradient. And once you get the hang of it, it's really quite quick to do. I mean, obviously it's not quite as quick as say digital drawing. Digital drawing does save a lot of time. And don't worry, I will still do like the Procreate tutorials as well. I'm going to sort of try and kill about 50-50 between these if I can. So I do half traditional, half digital, just so you've all kind of got something, to work on. So that's a tree branch, and then going to have this like really nice black underneath, just here. So basically where we've got this tail, a fair chunk of it you want black. So I'm going to come down fairly far. These bottom parts just here, I'm going to put a little strip of black on either side of each one of these little curves, just like so. And then just blend out that bit, just put little strips over the side. Just there. Just keep going until it's nice and blended out. Now I'm doing this little motion down here because I want to get this nice little white strip just in the middle of each one of these sections, just like so. And I really like that. I think that's going to do it for the black and grey shade, and I don't think we need too much more. You can put a bit of black inside these if you want. I don't feel like they need it. I want it to be like nice and bright compared to the rest, so it's going to really stand out. So now we've got it done. I think I'm going to go into some colour now. Just going to put these away. And I'm going to start with the colours that I know are guaranteed want in certain areas. It's always the best thing to do. If you're not too sure what to do, just go with the ones you know you want in certain areas. So I know I want these flowers red, and I know I want a few little areas red. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to leave this little edge. Just come around these. Just colour inside those. This one is literally called Berry Red. I'll try and sort of say the name of each one as I use it, so you guys can use the exact same ones if you want. Well, you don't have to, reds are red, as long as it's a nice strong red. Now feel free to use your own colour as well. You don't necessarily have to do this one red. If you want to sort of change it up, feel free to change it up. And then whatever you guys do as well, if you put them on social media, make sure you tag me in them. I love to see what you guys do. I try to comment on pretty much all of them as well, so you never know, if you sort of do it, you might get a comment from me. Not that that's something amazing, But yeah, I love seeing what you guys do. I take the time to do these videos, so I'd love to know that you guys are actually using them and doing them. Yeah, and any sort of advice you want, you know, feel free to kind of ask me. I'm always doing my best to try and help. Now, I'm a helpful kind of guy. I like to help. You know, that's what I do. A little bit of red just on that inside part of the nose, and just here on the tip of the tails. Just gonna go some red here. And when doing old school as well, just try and forget, you know, the actual colours of, say, animals and stuff. You know, I mean, you can do that, but just play around with it. You know, sometimes putting a colour that isn't supposed to be there is really cool. You get the option to play with that with old school. You know, as long as it kind of sort of looks a bit kind of like the animal, you know, you can kind of go crazy and do what you want with it. So here, I'm just putting a little bit of red just on the tip of these wings, which I really like. I think that's going to do it for the reds. You know, I don't want to overdo it with the red. I'm looking at, I know I want this background here to be orange because I'm going to have a fair bit of yellow inside the actual image, so I'm going to get this nice orange tone. This one is called bright orange. So it's going to bring that round. I'm basically just bringing that line so it's kind of cutting through each one of these circles. So it's not kind of overlapping them, but it's kind of cutting through them. Yeah, and as long as your circle's in the right space, it just means you kind of get a nice even kind of line with it. So yeah, just kind of cut through each one of those. Build it up like so. So you've got a nice bit of orange in the background. And I got that, I'm going to come in, I'm going to use this amber. I love this, it's got a really nice kind of sort of colour to it, nice tone. And quite a lot of areas I'm going to do in this colour. So I'm going to whip in over the areas that I know I want to do. So I want to do the eyebrows. I know I want to do the beak. I know I want to do this area just around the eyes just here. Now if you don't know which areas you want to do colours, you just kind of follow what I do on mine. I know I want them in the top of these like feather scale bits we've done. So just there, I know I want it inside the flower bits just here. Now you can use that any sort of tone. I just really like this kind of sort of golden sort of yellow. Now you can use a more yellow if you want, like more like a kind of canary kind of yellow. You know, this one's a bit kind of on the orange side, but it's my favourite one to use. I generally, even when I'm sort of tattooing, I tend to use more of a kind of golden tone than a yellow tone, especially when it comes to old school. No, I think it's just a beautiful colour to use on that sort of stuff. Toes, I want all the toes in there, or claws I suppose, what do you want to call them? I always call them toes. Is it still classic? Is it still technically a toe if it's a claw? You know, is it just a claw or is there some sort of special terminology for the word toe for a claw? I literally have no idea. Anyways, so I'm looking at it now, so I know I want a bit of blue behind these eyes. It's not going to be as strong as this blue. I'm going to put a bit of grey over the top and it's going to dull it down. Because this is a bit more stronger than I want. You know, if you wanted this sort of strength, that's perfectly fine. But with old school, I prefer my blue to be a bit more kind of muted. So what I do is I do that. And then I get my, where is it? What's in my hand? My CG2. So basically the second lightest one for the greys. Go over the top and it really just kind of mutes that colour down. It just makes this really nice muted blue. See, that's the colour I want. You know, always remember that when you've got markers, you can overlap them and you all make other new colours. You don't just have to use the set colours that come with it. You know, it's you can make them up as well. So this one here is Firebrick. So I'm going to bring this down. It's a really nice, rich brown tone. I absolutely love this colour. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this one into Cinnamon. So this brown here is called Cinnamon. And then from Cinnamon, I'm going to go to Dusty Pink because it's just a really nice kind of faint colour to fade it out. I'm going to use this colour through quite a bit of this. So I'm going to have like again just that Firebrick just here underneath this beak, like so. And come down from this bottom bit just here, bring this across like so. So you've got these two kind of lines. We're basically going to make this like little kind of highlight strips come through the centre of this. So we're going to get that Cinnamon, just bring that across those lines. And then get that Dusty Pink just over the edge. I just have got this nice kind of faint kind of highlight just going through the center there. That does the trick for me. This center bit here, because it's got a fire brick here, I want to make this section a little bit different. So this one here, I'm just going to do pure cinnamon and then do the fire brick in the leg. So you kind of get this different tone in the center. I feel sometimes it's nice to kind of break it up with two different tones, especially with brown. So if I'm doing brown in anything, so like a bear or anything like that, I tend to usually break it up and use two different kind of tones. See like there, now that center bit's a bit different. And then come in with that fire brick at the bottom, just here. It's just going to create a really nice effect. Just going to come across there just a little bit. Just come across a little bit more. I want quite a bit of fire brick on this, so I'm going to come a little bit more. Just there. And then just use that cinnamon just to kind of break it up and just blend out into the center bits. So just go over the edge till it starts to blend, and once you see it start to blend, like I said, just leave it and leave it to do what it does. Gonna come in, I want to use that blue again. You know, so if I use one color, I want to make sure I use that color at least in two areas in the image. If it's just in one area, it doesn't look right in my opinion. So I want to use it in two areas. So the area I'm going to use it now, I'm going to come down here and around this tail feather just here. That little line, that little strip we've done inside each one of these. Just there. It's only subtle, you're not going to see much of it. A lot of it you're not going to see. I'm going to use that, go over it in my grey tone. What did I do in my grey? CG2. Whoop! Just my pens all over the place. Just go over that ever so slightly just to dull down that colour so it matches. And then I'm going to come in with that cinnamon tone because I love this colour. I'm just going to go around the edge. So I'm not actually touching the blue, just like touching just around the edge. And then there's something about this sort of like brown tone into the blue I just really like. It's just a really beautiful transition. So just like that for the tail. A little bit similar here, I'm going to bring down this cinnamon just in this part of the wing. Just going to use it while I've got it ready. So about here, and then just fade that out into the dusty pink. Like so. And I'm going to use this nice lilac colour. I love this one. It's a lilac. It's a really like faint purple. It's a lilac. I'm going to use this inside the wings. Again, it's just a really nice, very subtle hint. You know, it's pretty much like grey. It just makes a new like kind of sort of dimension to the grey because it's just a little bit kind of strong. That little hint of colour. I'm going to use this in these part of the wings. Come down to the bottom. I'm also going to use this inside this inner eye bit just here, leaving a little section just on this bottom corner, just there. I think I'm going to use a little bit of that as well in this tree branch. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to use this cinnamon tone just around this edge to begin with. And because the owl's quite cinnamony, I don't want to use too much of it, so I'm basically going to use it just to kind of give the hint that it is a tree branch. So it's got that kind of brown tone in there. But then by using the enchanted lilac, which we, I call it enchanted lilac because that's my, one of my favourite inks I use on tattooing. And I'm going to use this on the inside part. So it's going to still look like a tree, but it's going to feel different from the owl because you haven't used too much of it. It's separate. The only closest part we've got is this wing. So it's separate and it just breaks that up. A little bit of golden strip just here, just on the little gap. Tail feather, just there. Touch a bit of cinnamon, just on a little gap just there. And then I like to use this forest green. Again, it's just like a slightly muted green. Still nice and strong, but it's not like a luminous or too cartoony. Which I really like. I think it looks really, really nice. And I think that does the trick. I'm really happy with that. That, people, is how you draw an old school owl. I hope you like it. You know, make sure you check out my videos, comment, like, subscribe. You know, it really does help these videos. You know, these videos can be seen by a couple of hundred people or, you know, a couple of 100,000. It really just depends on how much activity you get. So stuff like comments, likes, really what pushes this. It's just the way YouTube algorithm works. So yeah, if you can, just give it a like. It takes 2 seconds. If you give a comment, you know, like if you don't want to, don't sort of feel like you have to, but it's much appreciated if you do. But for now, people, I'm the Broken Puppet, and I'll see you next time. Peace.